All right, next question.
My question's for Dr. Flew. One of your fellow countrymen, C.S. Lewis, came to Christ late in life, as you know, and he came there because he got tired of listening himself point out what evil existed in the world and realized if there was evil, he had to have a referent that was good, an ultimate good from which to contrast evil. I'm wondering, in listening to you talk tonight and answer these questions, sir, whether or not you've wondered or worried about putting yourself into a sort of metaphysical straitjacket over the years, and if not, what evidence would it take to be presented to you to give yourself to Christ?
Well, I'm not sure how one goes from there, but it may be of interest to you to know that I was acquainted with C.S. Lewis in my time at the University of Oxford, both as a student and a graduate student. I went frequently to meetings of the Socratic Club, an organization which he founded and certainly through most of the 40s and the 50s chaired. You might also be interested to know that in his later life, he became very distressed about evil because basically he was confronted with the choice. Are things good because God says so, or does God approve of them because they were good? And he couldn't see the way out of any way other than saying that absolute power is its own justification, as Calvin and others said. And in view of the fact that the traditional religion is committed to the idea that most of God's creatures are going to be tortured forever for the things that he makes them do, the whole of Christian theism is a nightmare to me. And one of the reasons why I am so concerned about these arguments, because I see the existence of the Christ as a nightmare, because far from being good, on the actual record, and if you say only Calvinists believe this, I can refer you to the passages in Aquinas where he says that God created people and is the ultimate cause of including of the behavior for which he is proposing to torture them forever.
Yeah, you still didn't answer the question, though, and that is, what would it take for you to cross the line? Because you did have a guy show up in history, and you do have the historical evidence that he was killed, he was put into a tomb, and he appeared to his disciples, and the fact is you are not doing anything with the evidence. It's one thing to say, I don't believe it, that's an assertion. It's another thing to say, here's evidence to back up my assertion to knock your assertion.
No, what I would regard, or I do regard, all these things, the evidence of what was going on in Jerusalem as baffling and inexplicable. But I only think that it becomes that I would have a reason to believe that the explanation is that resurrection actually happened if I accepted the background of, basically what at least the Sadducees and the Pharisees believed, the whole tradition of the Old Testament. But I don't.
Gary, you want to respond to that? Do you have to be a Jew to believe that Jesus actually rose from the dead?
No, and I think a number of people have come to believe, I won't give the biographies, but there's a number of people, C.S. Lewis is one, who have come to believe because of the evidence. And I think, and back to the question, I think Lewis was correct that the biggest problem on the issue of evil, on morality, and I was serious when I said this man is a very moral person, but Lewis's problem was, what is your ground for, if you have a problem with evil, these evil things are going on, why are they going on? You can't say that unless you have an absolute moral standard of good. At least I think so. And I think that's a problem on the moral thing. As far as him coming to Christ, I don't know, I could see that happening. He's a pretty good guy. Look, if it could happen to Paul and James, you folks just keep praying for him. Just
Well,
keep praying for
what
him.
I was saying is that the basis of the evidence kind of pushing you over the line. In other words, we're not talking about mathematical equations here where you just put 2 + 2 = 4, because then you're putting in the ingredients. History is probabilistic, isn't it? So the fact is that when you, probabilistic's like going into court in a sense, when you get enough testimony, you, beyond a reasonable doubt, not 100% certainty, the fact is you should intellectually be over here and come kicking and screaming to Christ.
As Lewis said, he did. He said, I came kicking and screaming, the most reluctant convert in all of England.
Look, Tony, you got married, okay? You were telling about your wonderful marriage, and it sounds delightful. But, you know, in analyzing how people get married, that's not an absolute mathematical certainty. Boy, you're projecting, she's projecting, and you're gathering evidence on that woman, and you're saying, does she really love me? You can't get inside of her mind 100%. You can only take the data that you're getting. And you made an ultimate commitment to her in the sense, I'm going to marry you, and you said, I do, all right? And you did that, I think, on far less evidence than you've got for Jesus rising from the dead.
Keep praying.
Talk to me. All right.